when you are approaching this future and what our creators are showing us, are you afraid, or you think it's not possible that it will go in this direction?
I think in a lot of ways it has already gone in that direction. But you know, it's a little bit of both. It's terrifying, and I certainly look at things in our world differently. You know, data mining and social media and you know, even just like Alexa and things like that, I look at very differently now, and I question things a lot more of where things are going and whose hands they're going to end up in. But I also have a lot of hope for the future, you know, especially even just like working alongside Jonah and Lisa. If they have their like finger on the pulse of the future, then that gives me some kind of hope, because I think they're good people.
And Lisa, my question to you, when you guys are building the roads for new seasons, where do you get the inspiration to show new things that are for us as an enemy of the future, like the new threats that you're throwing there, because you're constantly changing the threats that are waiting for us in the future?
Yeah, well, life seems to show no end of inspiration for threats that might bedevil us as a culture, you know, whether it's, you know, I mean, always throughout the series, we have focused clearly on AI and the potential for that threat. But I think we've also tried to explore different facets of AI, right? Not necessarily the anthropomorphic humanoid robots, but also the more insidious ways in which algorithmic predictive models can manipulate human behavior, which I think is a really big threat. And, you know, I also think that now, especially as a parent, looking at the world where social media has defined so much of culture, and I think defined so much of cultural conversation and replaced the news in many respects, that to me has become a really interesting, terrifying mind virus that I'm concerned about, and so that's also something that we explore in this season, metaphorically.
And you think we'll evolve enough to actually use social media, or it's something that is beyond us and we don't know how to even control it anymore?
I think that we have to recognize our limitations as people. Like, you know, we're rats sipping at the sugar water. You know, we have to understand, just like they made a food pyramid to regulate, you know, you know, the US government tries to regulate, like, hey, maybe don't eat only donuts all the time, like eat mostly vegetables, and then these things it's treats. I think we have to educate, especially younger generations, on how to use technology instead of letting technology use you.
Yeah, it's shocking to me that people, maybe it's because I work on the show, but this idea that it seems to me that people still don't understand how technology can be used against us and to manipulate us. I mean, when you have these tools like social media that are in everybody's hands all the time, in the wrong hands, like, of course it's going to be used, you know, for mass manipulation. And just the fact that there's still so many people that aren't, you know, there yet, that's what scares me.
Yeah, it's an anodyne for a lot of emotion, and it's addictive.
Listen, there are still people that think that the earth is flat. So, you know, the conversation can go very,
it's true, yeah.
We can't save them all.
And I have to ask you, because in this series, in the first episode, the character of Ed Harris is saying, like, this is America, everything is for sale. And do you actually believe that even in the future, still money is the object and everything is for sale?
That certainly seems to be the way America is going, right? I think that one of the, that democracy is a beautiful thing, and capitalism is, you know, is a very great model, but they have their flaws, and we're beginning to find some of the ways in which those systems can be hacked. You know, I think that that big money, big industry controls a lot of policy in America now, and that's scary because we haven't necessarily elected these people, but it seems to be the way that the country has evolved. Different countries have different political systems and different regimes, and those can be, threatening to or good. But right now, I do think that virulent capitalism is a little bit scary.
Yeah, and keeping people desperate makes it easier to buy people.
Yeah, and dividing people.
Like if everything can be bought, then so can loyalty, and that's what's real terrifying. Morals will go out the window. It's just about survival.
Maybe it's time you question the nature of your own reality. We're not here to transcend. We're here to destroy.
When you think about the future, you see it in such a dark colors like in Westworld, or you're more optimistic about it? Let's start with Jeffrey.
I think it depends on where I picture myself. When I picture myself in the future, in a treehouse in Tahiti, I go, hey, it's all pretty good. When I think of my picturing myself and maybe in the future in some parts of America, I go, I should be in a treehouse in Tahiti is what I'm thinking. So it all depends. It all depends.
And Luke?
I'm optimistic. I live in a treehouse in Australia, so it's all good. It's all good for me. I think I'm a fairly positive person, and I'm cautiously optimistic. And I like to see the joy in the world. I see the good in the world. Some people choose to see the ugliness, but I choose the other. I do worry about the world we leave to our kids in terms of environment and stuff. Hopefully we're not setting them up for a world that's destitute of all life. But hopefully we can sort of wrangle technology to help us figure out some of those problems. And there's lots of people doing good work in that sphere. And I still see myself riding some blue waters in the future.
And I was doing an interview with your brother Chris like 2 years ago when the pandemic started, and he said that he's actually watching Westworld. And I'm curious, is he picking you, like trying to get any information about what's happening in the new season, or he's a regular viewer and he doesn't want to know anything? He wants to be surprised when he's watching it.
No, he likes to be surprised. I actually think he was lying. I don't think he's seen a single episode. He doesn't watch TV. He only watches the films that he's in. Yeah.
And,
my mom though, she picks my brain. She is a big fan, so she's constantly like, I love it. What's happening? Tell me, what's going on with this and that. So Chris not so much. Chris is a little more relaxed about it. So.
I was lied by Thor. It's sad, it's really sad. And the question to both of you, I'm curious because it's been 8 years, 4 seasons. And I'm curious, did you anticipate how your character will change? Or you thought it will be the same every season? Or you were simply surprised how they developed the arc of each character, that every season is something new for you guys? And Luke, I will start with you.
Yeah, I think you hope that it's going to change. I think a fear as an actor is that you get stuck doing the same thing day in, day out, and it's a fear going in, if obviously, to a TV show. And I've never done a TV show for this long, and I know Jeffrey hasn't either. And so the nature of our show is that the possibilities are endless. And I think right from the beginning, I don't think there was any fear that we were going to get, you know, stuck doing the same thing over and over again. And it's been, you know, it's been beautiful to be a part of this evolution, from, you know, my character being a guy in the tech world to, you know, having to, you know, be in this outside world protecting Bernard. And it's a constantly evolving character as it should be. And that's entirely to do with our, you know, our wonderful creators. They don't want to get stuck doing the same thing either. They don't want to be delivering a show that is tired and going through the same old loops, so to speak. And so we're in good hands in terms of, you know, making sure that we're coming up with stuff that is fresh and new and exciting and current as well.
Especially for you, Jeffrey, because from the beginning you were a scientist. Now you're like a normal killer. So how do you like this approach?
Well, I don't know about that. You know, Bernard, he's still very much a scientist. Yeah, he's so it's he's
This
but
season
he
starts in one of the first scenes from this season. You actually kill two guys and put them in the trunk. So don't tell me you're not a killer.
You know, you got to do sometimes what you got to do. You know, I mean, it's just they parked in the wrong space. You know, what are you gonna? It's but it's all for a purpose. It's for the greater good. Bernard has always been working on behalf of the park, the larger. He's always been a caretaker of the hosts, whether or not he knew who he was, but he knew what he was to do, and that was to look after, you know, these creations. And I think to some extent he's still doing that. He's still about the business of caretaking. And so, yeah, you know, you gotta break some eggs to make some omelets. So, you know, he's willing to do that now, which is a good thing, because he's kind of emerging into a more independent and free, you know, entity who has agency and takes the initiative. So I think that's an exciting evolution for him. But as for, you know, kind of understanding where the character was going, yeah, I pretty much saw everything from the first reading of the first script, season 1. I saw, you know, exactly the development of Bernard. I saw the development of the show. I saw it clearly in my head. In fact, from, you know, at times during, you know, the previous seasons, I've written notes to Jonah and Lisa to correct them on, you know, where they've been taking, you know, certain scripts, because that's not, you know, what I saw at the beginning. Of course, that's all bullshit. No, I saw, you know, what I did see, as, you know, as Luke described, is you know, it was very clear that there was endless possibility, that our show could go anywhere, and could go at any time, that, you know, it just had this incredible kind of quantum range to it because of the nature of the technology that we were dealing with, and also the nature of the writing. So the only thing though that you can predict about where it will go is that you won't be able to predict where exactly it will go, and that's to the credit of the genius of our writers. And so what I think we all have learned to do is just go with the flow, enjoy the ride, trust the process, have a good time, and try to tell a good story.